A very good evening to everyone. On behalf of Jani Technologies, I welcome to the 202nd edition of our Saturday Talk series. This initiative aims to spread awareness on issues of national interest, advancements in science and technology, and topics that shape human progress and well-being. Today's speaker is Bipindra NCG. He is the chairman of the New Delhi-based Law and Society Alliance, a think tank working on strategic affairs, national security, the economy, and law. With nearly 3 decades of experience as a strategic affairs journalist, he currently edits Defense Capital and Political Capital. He has previously worked with the Times of India, Press Trust of India, and Bloomberg News. Bipindra ji is also a practicing advocate in the Supreme Court of India and the Delhi High Court, focusing on constitutional, commercial, criminal, civil, arbitration, and mediational matters. He leads a full-service Delhi-based law firm, Hindustan Legal Solutions. Today's lecture is on China's footprints and its influence in India. Bipindra ji, I welcome you to the floor.
We have the slide that I am sharing. So today we are going to be talking about Chinese influence operations in India. This particular topic came to be of interest to me during the 2020 Ladakh India-China military conflict that we are all aware of, which went on for almost 4 years, or more than 4 years actually. During 2020, when the conflict started, I began to observe that a lot of academicians, think tankers, and influencers were writing newspaper articles in the editorial pages, and also on social media they were posting a lot of tweets and other posts on other social media platforms where they were sort of blaming India for the conflict, and also they were saying that China is much more powerful as a military and that India cannot really fight them in a war or a battle. These were the kind of opinions that they were expressing. But what we did one study in English in 2020, and we published it in 2021, and this Hindi was published in 2022. Essentially, it is a translation of the English version with additional details, additional studies that we had done during the course of 2021 and 22. So these are the reports. So here is the quiz question. Can somebody among the participants identify who this gentleman is?
Sridhar Vembu.
Correct, sir.
See.
You are on the spot. Mr. Sridhar Vembu, as we all already know, is Zoho Corp's chairman. He's the founder of that SaaS company, Software as a Service company, and he's one among the billionaires in India today. And he's a self-made man. He created Zoho, bootstrapped it completely, and he created an empire which is now called as Zoho. And obviously, it's a very popular SaaS company. And there was a particular issue that Mr. Sridhar Vembu was facing in his domestic affairs. In fact, his wife had filed it. They had separated a while ago, and he came back to India from about 10 years back, and he set up his headquarters in a remote village in Tamil Nadu, which is not too far away from the native place of both Abhimanyu sir and myself, which is Rajapalayam. And his headquarters is in Tengasi, which is hardly about 40 kilometers from Rajapalayam. So, but he was going through some personal issues. Some divorce case had been filed by his wife in the US, and this was the time when Mr. Sridhar Vembu was a member of the National Security Advisory Board, which we are all aware of is one of the highest advisory body on security matters, and it is headed by the National Security Advisor, Mr. Rajiv Doval, at this point in time. And frequently, every 3 years once, there is a churn in that NSAB and new people join. Currently, Mr. Sridhar Vembu is not a member, but in 2021, when this particular, or 2022, when this particular report was filed by Forbes, which is a very popular international magazine on business affairs, he was still a member of the NSAB. So he was advising government on technology as a security tool and how to make use of technology for securing the country on different aspects, not just on defense or security matters, but also on other technology matters. So he was a very important peg or a keg in that National Security Advisory Board wheel. So this essentially was a targeted attack on Sridhar Vembu using his personal domestic divorce case that was going on in the US. So this is a tactics that the Chinese normally follow. You would be surprised when I tell you this. At the point in time when this report was filed, Forbes was entirely, totally, 100% owned by China. Is anyone aware of that?
It's a news, sir.
Yeah.
Forbes magazine was owned by Chinese?
Yes, at the point in time when this particular report was filed, China owned Forbes magazine for about 6 years in all. Okay. During that 6-year period, this particular targeted attack had happened, and it was owned by a company called as Magnum Opus, which is a Hong Kong registered company, and it is a company that is funded by the Chinese sovereign fund, 100%. And in about 2023 or 24, I think late 2023, the Forbes was sold to an Australian industrialist. Now it is owned by an Australian. But during that period when this particular report was filed, some magazine was entirely 100% owned by Chinese. Not just Forbes. China is as a government, the Communist Party of China as a party running the state owns multiple big name magazines and media houses around the world today. They've invested heavily. I will also give you a reference for that in later part of my slide, which you will find it useful. So this is a strategy that they adopt. Why I am showing you this particular slide? I'm showing you this particular slide to bring you to an important aspect of how influence operations are done. What the Chinese do is that they start observing and monitoring individuals who are very important to a nation. They do it across the world, not just in India. We are only taking the example of India, like scientists, industrialists, politicians, media persons, academicians, think tankers. They start observing each and every person, and they try to win over that person on their side. If they are not able to win over that person on their side, what they do is they attack that person's credibility. Here, this is what Forbes was trying to do. They was trying to attack Sridhar Vembu's credibility both as a family man and also as a good-natured person, and also his ability to be an advisor to the government on technology matters. This is what they do. They adopt four means to win over a person. Either, I call it as the three deltas, 3Gs. First thing is they try to find out what is the weakness. Is there a weakness for drinks, drugs, dollars, or damsels? Are there any women in this group? Are there any women in the participants, please?
Yes, one or two.
Yes.
One or two.
Quite a few.
I'm extremely sorry, ladies. When I say damsels, I'm sure you're going to take offense because it sounds very sexist. But let us all be frank and admit that men are the weakest gender in this world. So let us be. So essentially, damsels or women are being offered to people to find out their weaknesses. If they have a weakness for women, they are targeted through that. So 3Ds, let me repeat it again. Drinks, which a lot of men are kind of addicted to, or they have a weakness for it. Drugs, a few of them are also drug addicts, so they get weakened by drugs, including therapeutic called as marijuana, which is ganja in our local language. So that is also offered. If that doesn't work, then they offer dollars. When I say dollars, I'm not talking about essentially the greenback. I'm essentially talking about money. Money is being offered. So if that is not offered, and if you don't fall for that also, they will find if you have a weakness in the gender weakness that you have. So this is the kind of weaknesses that they try to target. If none of this works, they try to target your credibility. So I call it as the 5 C's, which is they try to cajole you. If they don't cajole you, they are not able to do that. They will try to co-opt you. If they don't co-opt you, they will try to coerce you. This falls under the coercion category, and if you don't fall for coercion, then they try to hit your credibility. So if you don't hit your credibility, then they try to essentially unleash a carnage against you. So these are the 5 Charlies or 5 C's that they do to essentially target people. So this is what they do. I will now tell you the study that we did. We studied 9 sectors. We'll go one by one. Among the 9 sectors are the entertainment sector. Let me just list it quickly so that you know what we're going to be talking about. If the entertainment industry is one sector, then we looked at think tanks and civil societies, which are essentially academic research institutions. Then we looked at academia, which are the colleges, universities, and stuff like that. Then we looked at the media. We looked at the social media. We also looked at the tech sector in India, how it's influenced, and also the Chinese intelligence operations that are happening. There are startling information that have come out from our study, and also illicit trade practices and the trade deficit, how they manipulate that, and also the political system. These are the 9 areas that we studied. Next slide is, this is particularly, whom do you see in this picture? Can you identify at least 2 of them? Both of them are popular. Anybody?
One is the Shah Rukh Khan, no?
Yeah, Shah Rukh Khan, absolutely right.
There is
Center
one
is
Kabir something.
Kabir
Some
Khan.
one director, Kabir.
Khan. Kabir Khan, absolutely. So the two people you have identified very correctly. This is a image from 2019 Beijing International Film Festival. So just to give you a background, in 2018 the International Film Festival or the Beijing International Film Festival was handed over for organizing it to the propaganda department of the Communist Party of China 1 year before this event. This is 2019. 2018, it was given to the propaganda department. Please trust me, even all the state establishments are run by the party. Okay, there is no state arm that is not run by the party. So propaganda department took over the film festival. And what was the purpose of the propaganda department taking over? They wanted to influence the Indian mind, which they understood the entertainment industry as a great influence over the Indian mind. We are all big fans of movies and movie stars essentially. So they understood that they can influence the mind of the people through the film industry or the entertainment industry. Not just films, but also television channels, all these video sharing platforms like Netflix. I mean, there are plenty in India also. There is one called as Angama Digital Media, which is again very similar to Netflix. And there is another one called as Vidulu, just not sure about that name. This particular platform is also one such platform. So what they did was they invited Shah Rukh Khan and Kabir Khan to this event, and they gave them a lot of prominence. They were attended to very well, and ultimately what they created was they created a India-China film forum. They created one forum of this sort. Essentially, the forum was used to make Chinese investments in Indian film production. So they wanted to control the production of films, so they started entering into alliances with Indian film producers, and they began producing movies in India. Money is power. I mean, in any industry, money is power. So money can influence how a film is made. So through that influence, they tried to build narratives, pro-China narratives and anti-India narratives, and also they ensured that some of the issues that are very touchy for them, which are the pain points for China, are not covered by the Indian entertainment industry. I'll show you an example of that here. Okay, this is a movie called Rockstar. How many of you have watched it? Ranbir Kapoor was the hero of this movie. I'm sure many of you would have watched it. It has some great songs actually. So this particular image that you're seeing is from a song of that movie. That song was called Sada Haq. If somebody knows Punjabi, then you would know what it means, which is my right. Sada Haq is my right. That is the English translation of Sada Haq. So there is a very popular song, Sada Haq. So this particular song, first when the movie was released, it had this image of free Tibet, because this particular song shows a lot of insurgency activities around the world, particularly in India. They show India also, they show some other insurgency activities or activities for separatist activities around the world, and Tibetan movement was also shown in this particular song. If you go back and see that song again, you will also see the Khalistani separatist movement also is shown in the same movie with all the necessary identities. Just like here you see Free Tibet, the Tibetan flag and all that, you will find a similar thing in that Khalistani movement clip that is shown in this particular movie, particular song. So immediately after this was released, they influenced the Central Board of Film Certification. They had their own people in that Central Board of Certification. They ensured that this particular scene is changed into this. What is the difference you see? Where is Tibet? So this happened within a matter of weeks. So this is the kind of influence they could exert. So this is one example. The other trick that they adopted was to promote Indian film stars in China. So 60s and 70s, you know that Indian films were very popular in Russia. So a lot of even the Kadakin, who was the ambassador of Russia and India for a long time, he died in Delhi while he was still an ambassador. He could speak very fluent Hindi and he was a great singer. He used to sing a lot of Hindi songs when we got an opportunity to meet together in the evenings. When he's also at leisure and we are also at leisure, he used to entertain us with lots and lots of Hindi songs. He used to converse with us in Hindi, such fluent Hindi. So similarly, now what is happening is they are trying to influence the Indian industry by popularizing films in China, Indian films in China. It might all sound so great, they are doing a great service to the entertainment industry. They are getting revenues to the industry and all that. But the fact is, all these figures, like for example, this Dangal movie, which I am showing you here, of Amir Khan, it did not earn 500 crores in China. It was all, as made up targets. This is our finding. We have brought out a report. I showed you the report earlier. It's available online also on the net. You can just download it. We have given evidence as this. These figures are false. These figures are made up figures just to boost the image of Indian film stars so that they are quite loyal. And not many people know that Amir Khan was promoting Chinese propaganda for a very long time. I'm accusing him of that. This report came out in 2021. It's 4 years now. None of them have had the guts to sue me because what I've written is absolute truth. So none of them have had the guts to sue me till date that I've filed. So he started doing a lot of propaganda work for the Chinese because he was being paid for it. This again talks about how he joined hands with China on the economic front, including it was advocating that we should have signed the trade deal, how we should have signed that agreement. This was the argument that was being done by these things. So now we'll move on to again Hindu also publishes these kind of advertorial things in large almost every. Yes, sir.
Sir, one point. N. Ram himself is a swan communist, no, sir?
Hindu, yes, sir. He is a cardholder. He is a cardholder of the Communist Party of India.
Yeah. So he himself are communists. So
he
naturally,
yeah. So though it is called colloquially as the Mount Road Mahavishnu, we call it as the Global Times of Chennai. So that is the Global Times is the Communist Party of India's mouthpiece. The Communist Party of China's mouthpiece publication. So we call it as the Global Times of Chennai. So it's a completely communist newspaper and it doesn't necessarily work for India's welfare. They work for China welfare. So that is the Hindus' background. I am very harsh on them because they behave like that. So they deserve it actually. So let's move on to the social media. You all know that it's a great wall of China as far as internet is concerned within China. It's a great firewall that they have. However, their PLA has created something called as the Information Warfare Force. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of this. This Information Warfare Force was created out of the Strategic Support Force in June-July 2024. And this particular, but even before this creation, they were part of the Strategic Support Force and they created something called as a 50-cent army where 200,000 PLA soldiers were tasked to be on Western social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook and others. It is not allowed for the common citizens in India. It's a great firewall. The common citizens of China cannot get onto Twitter or Facebook or any other, but these people, these PLA soldiers were allowed to go on and they tracked all anti-China posts and they did a counter to it. I mentioned it earlier, cajoling, coercing, all that. So credibility, hitting the credibility of people. So all that they did using this 50-cent army. And it's actually now a division-sized force in the information warfare force that they have created in 2024. But it existed even before that under the SSF. So they have created this to essentially ensure that there is no anti-China information that goes out or any information on Tibet or anything that is unpalatable to the Communist Party of China. So this is their strategy. They are there everywhere. You will find recently also there was a report that came out of the the United States government's research agency, which said that during Operation Sindoor, the Chinese 50-cent army was working heavily to do a lot of false propaganda, disinformation propaganda on Operation Sindoor, particularly against Rafale and in support of the F-17 and other export aircraft platforms of the Chinese. So this is their strategy. They do it pretty well. And we also need to learn this particular trick that they use. So I mentioned earlier that there were a lot of military officers also who were doing this kind of anti-India work. So these two people are some of them. Mr. Praveen Sani is a former major in the army. He retired as a major, or rather he had to take a premature retirement post and behavior that was unbecoming of an officer. So he was not sacked but was asked to go, resign and go. So he left the army, came out and he started a magazine called as The Force. And I don't know, you might have heard of it. So he's a complete Chinese stooge. So he gets access to China very frequently. His co-editor is Ghazala Wahab. She's again part of the Force magazine. These two people have been spewing venom against the Indian Army and the Indian Armed Forces for years together. right now. And interestingly, Praveen Sani was banned by the Indian Armed Forces, all the three forces, because once while he was still pally with the Indian Armed Forces headquarters, he was given access to an Indian Air Forces electronic warfare unit. So he visited the unit, came back and wrote a story giving away all their secret codes and everything. So misusing the status as a journalist and his credibility or his his background as an army officer, he extracted all information that the enemies of India should not know and published it openly in the magazine. So he was banned post that incident. Of course, the entire electronic warfare unit had to rejig their complete systems and create new frequencies and stuff like that. So this was his contribution, a huge contribution to the Indian military. So not just him, there is another former colonel from the Armored Corps who was writing for a business publication. Currently, is not part of that particular business standard paper. He too was one guy who was writing against the Indian Army and the Indian Armed Forces during the 2020 Ladakh conflict. In fact, I've been a journalist for several years. So when I read a story, even if it says sources said, by reading the copy, reading what is written, I can make out who the source could be. I mean, I have enough experience to know that who could the source could be. During 2020 Ladakh conflict, the reports that were written by that particular former colonel who then became a journalist. He started off with NDTV and then moved to Business Standard. That particular journalist's writings were clearly briefed by the Chinese embassy. That was very clear from the way it was written. So, I mean, that bias actually will come out, that you will give away the source by the way you write that particular article, because you are already conditioned by listening to the briefing of how to write that particular article. So that is what they did. So we'll just move on one or two slides on the tech sector. I hardly have much time. So these are the companies, digital platforms on which the Chinese Tencent, Alibaba Group, Xiaomi, and all these people have invested. I'll share the thing with Bhushan. You can later you can share it with them. They can take a look at it and also study the report that I have filed. Okay, this is probably the last couple of slides. This is the political influence that the Chinese do in India. Here you find late Sitaram Yechury, the Communist Party of India, Marxist General Secretary, along with his party colleagues, meeting up with the Chinese embassy staff. In fact, these guys were carrying huge gift hampers in their hand when they went to meet these people. And we are also aware of how the Communist Party of India, Marxists, had supported the Chinese during the 1962 war. We are all aware of the Communist Party supported them. So not just the Communist parties, but also left-leaning political parties are all under the influence of the Communist embassy here, including we are all aware of the 2008 Indian National Congress agreement signed with the CCP in Beijing. That became a huge controversy recently. So Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, which is headed by Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, again received a large political funding from the Communist Party of China. So these kind of, as I mentioned earlier, drinks, drugs, dollars and damsels are the weaknesses. We use all that to influence so many sectors in India. And the good thing is the Indian government is quite alive to this threat that this poses, and they have started acting against these kind of influence operations that are going on now. I've given you some examples like the Institute of China Studies and stuff like that. So again, Pinarayi Vijayan, we all know who this great person is, the Kerala Chief Minister. So if you go to his Twitter feed and start checking, almost every month he will write one or two tweets in praise of Xi Jinping, the Communist Party of China's General Secretary and also the President of the Single Party State. So this is their background, and of course I mentioned about the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. This is the funding that they have received. There is one highlighted mark here where how they visited China and sort of relationship that they were building with the Chinese Communist Party. All that is here. So the biggest threat by all this is that the Chinese are completely well entrenched in several places, but still there is one lacuna that we have because the Vienna Convention, which which is the international law that dictates diplomatic activity. There are two key articles in that particular Vienna Convention. Article 4, which allows the embassies a lot of freedom to do some of the activities that they do. We all read about some political counselor of some embassy going and meeting a political leader somewhere to have a conversation with them. All that is allowed. The embassy staff, our diplomats are allowed to go and meet people, either in political parties or in social organizations or in think tanks or everywhere else. They are allowed to go and meet, talk to them, get a feel of what is happening in the political climate, economic climate. There is something called as pestle analysis. I don't know. I'm sure people who have done management courses would know about it. So pestle analysis they are allowed to do when they go and interact and all. But Article 41 actually prevents them from interfering in the local affairs of the host country, and also it prohibits the use of your embassy premises for acting against the state of the host country. So there are both what you call as black and white issues and also some gray issues as far as this influence operations is concerned. And one thing which I'm actually currently grappling about is whether there is a legal remedy to do this. Apart from Vienna Convention, is there any other stuff that we can do? One thing that generally we do, we know we are aware of this that happens. India keeps expelling diplomats. Similarly, when they do something spying work or something, Pakistan diplomats come under such PNG action, persona non grata orders. Recently, when the Canadian government accused India of interfering or doing some political killings within Canada, each other side expelled their diplomats. So then that kind of activity also is done essentially. So, but apart from this, is there any legal remedy within the Indian law or international law? Is something that I'm studying currently, and I hope to come up with some answer for that very soon. Thank you so much.
So, how safe you are? That was the first question.
I'm not safe. I'm absolutely not safe at all. I'm aware of it. I take my own precautions. I'm absolutely not safe. Let me, I mean, the jokes apart, let me tell you that I know I'm not safe. I know there are risks involved. At this point of time in my life, I can take risks. So I'm willing to take that risk. That is number one. And also I'm doing it in national interest. So I'm not doing it for any other pecuniary benefits or any other thing. I'm doing it purely for bringing out issues. I mean, let me tell you very frankly, though in Asher's Stones, these kind of issues have been discussed among the security groups, the strategic affairs circles. This is the first ever publicly documented report on the influence operation activity that China has been doing and the threat posed by China. I have also given some suggestions to the government. In fact, when I brought out this report, I have shared this report with the government at the highest level, and some action has been taken. So, and also I have come under cyber attacks several times. So that kind of no physical attempts to date. But all digital attacks have happened on me, against me. To tell you very frankly, Global Times has written twice articles about me and my activities, naming me individually. So I wear it as a badge of honor.
I am also a little aware of that. इसलिए पूछ रहा हूँ मैं, how safe are you? And I wish that people like you are safe in the interest of the country for some more time to come. Right.
Yes.
So I have, because there are more patriots in civil dress than in uniform, particularly in retired this thing. I had to say this, though it's a hard fact, because many of the forums today, when we go attend, it becomes Chinese fan club jaise ho jate. Particularly when defense staff or retired defense staff keep lecturing as that China, vaise. At the end of the day, we feel like, are we going to a Chinese fan club association? ऐसा लगता है कभी-कभी, right? Many times in the name of Chinese studies, we get a lot of depressing note and appreciating note about Chinese from the so-called colored defense people, retired defense people. Coming to this note, sir, how safe is the startup ecosystem, sir, regarding the technology investment side? Because if you say the top 10 banks, almost 5-6 banks are Chinese banks. Right. Yeah. Even Mitsubishi comes probably second or third. So, how safe, and have you done some study on that, sir?
It's a very good question. In fact, in the security ecosystem, until recently, we did not have much control on these kind of investments and funding patterns for defense companies. Till recently, we did not have, at least till about 5 years back, we did not have any such oversight or control on what was happening on that front. So there are several companies in India, particularly which were involved in digital security space and startups which were involved in such activities. Communication side, they all got funded by the Chinese in large numbers. But that funding quota has been reduced now. I mean, if the government has brought in a new rule where if your Chinese investment in your company goes beyond 5% at any point in time, you need to intimate the government immediately. So if you don't do that, I think that they have a time of 45 days to intimate. If they don't do it within those 45 days, then there will be a huge action by the government against that particular company. So that is the rule that has been brought in. But what you say is correct. The startup ecosystem was being targeted by the Chinese in India, particularly in communication, digital security issues, cyber security space, and these kind of areas. They were targeting and focusing on that area heavily. And also, defense companies were also of particular interest to them. But fortunately, at that point in time, our defense ecosystem was not that matured. But today, things have changed in the last 10 years. Majorly, it has changed. And the government is also now very vigilant about it. I'm sure you are aware that even sourcing of what do you call it as the raw materials from the Chinese are not anymore accepted by the government, because so you'll be surprised, actually all the CCTVs that have been put up on several security establishments in India were all Chinese CCTV platforms. So I mean this is actually something to laugh about and also to be worried about. The thing is, it's happened. Now things have changed. There are a lot of security camera companies, security service providers which had Chinese involved in them majorly. So a lot of these CCTV camera producers in India, manufacturers in India, assemblers in India had acquired Chinese parts and they were doing that. So all that has also now come under scrutiny post the 2020 incident. So yeah, you're right. Actually, the startup ecosystem is where the Chinese have been focusing heavily. To some extent, it has been controlled in the recent years.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I don't know if it satisfied you. Your curiosity, you definitely know more about defense ecosystem than I do.
You addressed the issue. Just wanted to know this protocol has set in or not.
Yeah, the protocol has set in. I told you three things that have set in. One is the limit on the investment. If it goes beyond 5%, immediate intimation within 45 days. If that doesn't happen, then penalties happen. Number two, raw material sourcing has been completely curbed. Or to a large extent it has been curbed. And number three, all the security audits have been going on for equipment to see if there are any Chinese equipment or Chinese components and parts that pose a security threat. So this audit is happening. So these three actions the government has taken in the recent.
Sir, I have a question. Did your study also cover political movements in India and in how they were influenced or they were used by Chinese, like CAA, Shaheen Bagh thing, and then the farmers thing, and how they were used, or even the 2020 attack in Ladakh was probably to use that as a political weapon by some of the Indian political parties.
Correct. I mean, you must be aware that the present-day leader of the opposition, who was just an MP at that time, went to Ladakh when this conflict was happening, post-2021 actually. So, and he talked about a lot of things that were not in favor of India. So, he did do that. So, it was being used politically by some opposition parties in India. That's a fact. Number two, with regard to political movements being used, yes, my study did do research on that. I mentioned that as part of the 9 sectors that we studied. This particular study I mentioned, this Chinese influence operations, the scope was very limited. We were trying to find out if there is any money trail involved in any of these political activities that are going on. We did find some of them, to tell you very frankly, post that also, including the 2024 Lok Sabha elections and the previously the Karnataka Assembly elections. We did a study where we found that Chinese were funding some political leaders and political parties who were contesting elections. So that evidence did come out from our study, and also how the Chinese digital warriors, I'm talking about the 50 Cent Army, was very active during the 2024 elections in terms of how they. This is something I need to tell you actually. It's a very important thing. How do they use technology to influence politics in India? Number one, the 50 Cent Army that I talked about, they create a lot of bots. I'm sure you are aware that today at the click of a button, you can create thousands of bots with different names, and even Indian sounding names can be created with a click of a button. So people, the Chinese 50 Cent Army does that on a regular basis, and these bots are unleashed on the Indian audience. And these bots, what they generally do is, if you go and check, you will see a pattern. We have done a study on that using various digital tools. We have done a study where you will find that 6 months before the 2024 elections, new handles were created, and they started posting on the Ram Temple, Ayodhya Ram Temple. Then they started posting on the IPL cricket matches. Then they started posting on some Indian films that were out at that time. So by touching upon these popular themes in the Indian social media space, they were trying to get followers to their handle, and also to create legitimacy among the Indian public about their political loyalties. So once they achieved that credibility and loyalty, then during the 2024 elections, they started posting political messages which were actually inimical to the ruling party of the country of that time. So they had gained traction, they had gained credibility, they had gained followers, and using that traction that they had gained, they started doing political propaganda. Similarly, as they did in 2020 Ladakh conflict, or in the Operation Sindoor, which I mentioned earlier. During Operation Sindoor, the 50 Cent Army was very, very active, putting out propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, to discredit the Indian military, and also to give credibility to the Pakistani propaganda on downing of Rafales. There was no evidence, but those particular propaganda by these Chinese 50 Cent Army, along with this is again a two-front digital war that was happening. The Pakistanis and the Chinese social media handles were doing a huge, using the fog of war. They did a lot of, propaganda, call it as dynamic warfare, created a lot of confusion among the Indian public over several issues, including the Rafale issue. So I think recently, a couple of days back, there was a US congressional report which talked about how the Chinese used this digital media doing propaganda during Operation Sindoor against India and Indian interests. So this is a major issue that we are facing.